Howdy YouTube, Eznix here with a video for you. Now, I'm going to play a little clip of TRG's video, Things to Do Before You Make a Distro. This inspired me to make this video in not so much a response, but just for fun. Let's get started.
So the first thing is you should ask yourself, why am I making a distribution? Is it for me?
First thing you should ask yourself, why are you making a distribution? For fun, that's my reason, and for utility, my own personal utility, and to put it out there in the world, see if anyone else likes it. That's all. That's my answer to his question. Why am I making a distribution? So let's go over to my desktop and take a look at using one of my templates, my Ezarcher templates, to build your own respin of Arch. Now, I make very minimal decisions in my Ezarcher. I don't theme desktop. I don't provide my own icons or wallpapers or anything out of the AUR, but I know people like to do that kind of thing. So we're going to take my Ezarcher template and modify it a little bit, try and make it a little more custom. So I have a folder, Customs. My Mate template is ready to go. I've done a couple things so far off camera, and we'll go into them while we're going through how to customize this build. So let's open up the folder, and inside we have everything we need. If you're running on an Arch-based system, this should work just fine. If you're running on Manjaro, I doubt it will work. The Manjaro repos are not the Arch repos, and the packages are not the same across the board. There are a lot of similarities, but they're not identical. So please do this on an real Arch-based system. It can be Endeavor, it can be one of my Ezarcher ISOs. Now my ISOs provide all of the dependencies already installed to do this. So in a way, my own ISO is a perfect building platform for my own templates. But as I said, any Arch-based system should work with the right dependencies installed. So, we have my template. Let's cover a couple simple things right up front here. When you boot an ISO, it can boot either in UEFI mode or legacy mode. We have two folders here, EFI boot and syslinux. These two folders provide the boot files for the ISO when you're booting on one of the two styles of systems, EFI or legacy. So let's take a look. Going into EFI boot, loader entries, and we have two files. If we open up one file, we can see I've customized the title of the boot menu option. Doesn't say Arch Linux, it's Ezarcher Linux. I've also included a statement here, cow space size equal 4G, that will increase the virtual space on the file system to 4 gigabytes. Very handy to have some working space on your ISO. The second file covers booting with the speech enabled for accessibility options. I've customized the title, and I've also added the cow space. That covers EFI booting. Don't have to mess with anything more. The syslinux folder contains all the files necessary to boot your ISO in legacy mode. In legacy mode, you do have the option of putting your own custom splash screen for your boot menu. It has to be 640 by 480 pixels. So I have an image ready to go. It's PNG. It has to be named splash.png. I also have edited this ArchISO syslinux.cfg file, which is the menu. Put in my own text for the prompt, description, and for the menu item, for regular booting and booting with speech enabled. I've commented out the newer copied RAM feature because I don't want to use that or make that available. Those two folders, the EFI boot and the syslinux, come in from the Relling folder, which is ArchISO's own configuration files. Now, I replace those two folders with my own folders. Next, let's go into ETC here. ETC has a bunch of useful things you might want to change or add to your custom build. Calamares, right off the bat. If you're doing this and customizing it for your own use, you can go as little or as big as you want. If you're creating your own respin to put out in the world, you might want to think about doing your own thing with the Calamares customization. In the branding folder, we have a folder called Ezarcher. You can name your branding folder whatever you want. However, we'll get back to this. You have to specify that folder name in the settings.conf file. Now, in the branding folder, we have a description file, we have some PNGs, some images, and we have a show QML file. Those are really the only files you're going to be dealing with. The branding description file, let's open it up, gives you a chance to specify your product name, your version number, any links to support or product URLs, your own website, your SourceForge page, whatever it is. Further down, you specify your image files that you're going to use in the Calamares installer. The squid.png is the icon for the what will appear as the icon, the launcher, in your menus. The logo is your own logo. The wallpaper is whatever wallpaper you want. And the slide is not specified here. That's specified in the show.qml. But your languages, if you want a little image for languages, you can put that in too. So those are all specified in this file. The show.qml file controls the slideshow during Calamares while it's installing. Now here, what you'll want to do is change the text in the slides to whatever you want the text to read. You can set the color of the text, the size of the text, the alignment of the text, and you can also choose the slide PNG. Now, I only provide one slide PNG, so it's a constant background with changing text. If you want, you can provide multiple slide PNGs and specify them for different slides. Very nice. So that's all up to you to do. That is the branding of Calamares. Now the settings in Calamares, well, before we get to the modules, the settings.conf file is where you specify, a little further down, your branding folder. You don't need the full path, just the folder name, and it has to be in the folder branding. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. The rest of the settings.conf file, unless you really want to modify the way Calamares works, you can leave this alone and it'll work just fine. None of the other parts of that file control branding. Now, in the modules, you really don't have to touch any of this. However, if you want to get into how Calamares works, you can read through these. These are the settings files from the defaults that I needed to modify. Every settings file that Calamares uses that is not in this folder is defaulted. I use the default values. These are the only ones that I've needed to change. And none of this has anything to do with branding. It's all function of Calamares. So you really don't have to change any of this. Didn't mean to get totally out of ETC, because we're going to get into adding desktop customizations. Now, in the ETC folder in my template, I provide a Skell folder. Now, it looks empty. However, if we turn on Show Hidden Files, I've copied in already things out of my .config of my user home directory and my .themes. So let's take a look at that. We'll open up my home folder here. We'll turn on Show Hidden Files. And I wanted to transfer all of the desktop settings, the theme and the icon choices and the panel layout, excuse me, to my build. In Mate, it's relatively simple. Other desktops may be a little more intricate in what you need to copy. I looked at .config, so that's a common folder for configuration files for desktop settings and programs. And in here, there's very little that you actually need to copy to include your desktop settings. You need really two folders out of all of this. The decomp folder and the Mate folder. So what I've done is I've taken these two folders, copied them, and put them in the .config folder in etc skell. Now, whatever's in etc skell will be transferred into the home folder of the live user on your ISO, as well as the home folder of your installed user when you install the system. So these settings will apply to the live system and to the installed system. So that's all I have, these two folders. That covers pretty much all of the Mate settings, except for any custom themes I have done. Now, any custom themes I have done are in .themes. So I've taken these two folders and copied them into etc skell .themes. The background setting. Now the background setting, if you don't copy in your image into user share backgrounds, this setting won't carry over. So that's another thing I've done in the build, is I've already copied over into USR share backgrounds Eznix and put a few of my choice wallpapers into the build. I did this off camera because it took a while to figure out which ones I really wanted, and I didn't want to do that on camera. Same with the config folders in .config and .themes. I did that off camera just so I could sort of play with thinking about which folders really had what I wanted. And you saw, very few folders are necessary. You don't need anything else for desktop settings except deconf and Mate. So let's go ahead, turn Show Hidden Files off. We can close that, come back to our build directory here. So we have our backgrounds already in place. We have our settings in etc skell. You really don't have to deal with anything else in this folder. The sudoers file is already set to provide sudo privileges to the live user. The locale.gen file is there for the build for languages, locale choice. That's all handled by the steps.sh script, which we'll get to. The opt folder has my local repository of Calamares, ckbcomp, and make init cpio OpenSwap. Those are the only 3 outside packages I provide in my templates. You may want something else. You may want to add things, say, out of the AUR, or if you're adding out of the standard Arch repositories, that's simply done in the packages list file. But say you want to add a program out of the AUR into your build. Let's head on over and go to the AUR and take a look. So AUR.archlinux.org. And just for an example, I want something small, easy to do, quick, but a good example. And this, you can do this with as many programs as you want. Just realize the larger you make your repository, the more space it's going to take up on the drive, on the ISO. So let's do an AUR helper. And a nice one, a very small one, I think it's written in Perl, is Trizen. Now I didn't want Trizen Git, I just wanted Trizen. There we go. Now, very easy to do this. You're going to download the snapshot of the package you want. Just save it. That's fine. Let's go on over back to our file system here. Head on over to Downloads. And here is the Trizen tar file. It's really just a package build. Let's extract it, open up the folder, and that's what we get, is the pkg build file. Now you can take a look at this file. You don't have to change it, shouldn't have to change it. And all we need to do is open a terminal in this folder. As our regular user, type in makepkg and hit enter. And barring any dependency issues, should build. Trizen's very simple. It's one of the reasons why it's such a good example. Doesn't cause any problems. So we built the package, and we have the package right here. We no longer need this terminal up, and we can copy and paste this package right into our local repository. We're not really done yet. Let's go ahead and close that window. I provide a text file in this local repository. The text file has a few bits of very useful information. Provides a list of all the dependencies for Calamares. So if you don't have these installed, you might want to go install them. It also provides a line to recreate your repository database files. Now, this line only covers the first 3 files that I place. It does not have what we just added. So let's go ahead and add that file name. Easiest way to do that is just to rename the file, copy that file name out, and paste it in. Cool. We can go ahead and save this. And we can go ahead and remove the database files that are already there. So anything that says easy repo, we're going to get rid of. Okay, we're going to recreate all those with the 4th package along with what else is already there. So let's go ahead and delete those older repository files. We're going to take this line now, copy it. We're going to open up a terminal in our repository folder, paste it, and run it. And now we've just rebuilt our repository database files that we need, that now includes all 4 packages. And we're done. Last thing we have to do to make sure that Trizen is installed in the build, during the build, is we're going to have to add that to the packages list file. So let's open that up. Now this packages list file is a combination. The first 117 lines or so are stock from the ArchISO default for building ArchISO. The rest, everything from line 119 down, is what I've added. Now, I'm going to put Trizen into the system group, and we'll put it in alphabetical order. Now when we save this file and build our system, Trizen will be installed out of our custom local repository. Pretty cool. Now you can go through this packages list and decide, I don't want htop, I don't want grsync, I don't want GNOME disk utility. Some items very safe just to remove. Other items not so safe. What's grub? If you don't know what grub is, you probably shouldn't be doing this. However, don't take grub out. Things like pkg file, nice utilities for helping with Pacman and building packages. Things like xdg user dirs. If you don't know what it is, don't remove it. Don't remove that one. You won't get your nice little desktop folders in your home folder for documents and videos and music and such. The rest of this, look through. There might be things you really like. There might be things you really don't like. The multimedia section, hey, if you don't want transcode or SOX or simple screen recorder or quad labet, swap them out for programs you do want. If you notice, there's a section in multimedia where I've commented here. If you want to replace Pulse Audio with Pipewire, which is an up-and-coming audio backend for Linux, you can remove the comments from the Pipewire section and comment out the Pulse Audio section, and thereby replace Pulse Audio with Pipewire. For the time being, I still use Pulse Audio as a default sound backend, but Pipewire is getting better and better, and more popular. So that's one option. I give you all of the packages necessary to make that changeover right here in the packages list file. Towards the bottom of the file, do not touch the Calamares dependencies and do not touch Calamares. Everything else is pretty fair game, but the more you change, the more you risk not having a working system the way you want it. We can close that file. Now, let's take a look at profile.def.sh. So let's open that up. Now this file, the first 4 lines allow you to set the name of your ISO and system. Now you can go ahead and change this to whatever you want. The rest of the file I wouldn't touch. This is all pretty much internal build settings. Has nothing to do with branding, and every setting here needs to be here. The pacman.conf statement I just changed with the latest release of my templates. I finally got around to specifying the pacman.conf file as written here in the template. Otherwise, up until yesterday, my build templates used the pacman.conf file in your system. requiring the steps.sh script to modify your own packages.conf file. Now, on my own system and your own system, if you know what it's doing, you're well aware of the risks, it's fine. But I figured I'd change this, make it more correct. This way we're not modifying the packages.conf file on anyone's system any longer. We're just using the one that's already provided. So we're not making any changes there. The pacman.conf file that we're providing has the easy repo added at the end. Other than that, it's a very standard packages.conf file. Yeah, it's pre 6.0, so I don't have the parallel downloads here, but I might change that in the future. It still works just fine though. Let's get to our steps.sh file here. This is really the heart of my build system, is this script. This script allows you to specify through variables your locale, your key map, your username, your user password, your root password, and your host name for the build, for the ISO. So these variables you can change to what you need it to be. If you don't like live and live for a user and password, change them. If you don't like tour as the root password, change it. Put your own host name, whatever you want your machine name to be. The rest of the script you really don't have to touch. It does all the work for you. It builds the system by manipulating, copying these files into the right places, and then eventually runs mkarchiso to build your system. So you really don't have to play with this file. All the choices you need to make are right up here in define variables. Define your variables, save the file, run it, you'll get your desired output. So that's what we're going to do. We are now going to build this template with the modifications I put in. So let's become root. You could run it with sudo, but I like running it as root. Now, before I start my script, and I suggest you do these two steps. Pacman SYU, make sure you are up to date. Hopefully there's no kernel update coming down right now. There is. But you know what? I'm not booted off the standard kernel. I'm running the LTS. But let's go ahead and take the update. This shouldn't take too long. I see Network Manager is getting updated. Okay. Sorry about this. I was hoping it would just be no updates at this time. We're going to go ahead and pause this. Okay, so we're done with our updates. That's fine. Let's clear the screen here. You know what? Let's make this a little bigger. I should have done that before. Last thing we're going to do before we start the build is clean out the package cache. Okay, cool. Starting with a clean slate. So we can just start the build with the steps.sh script. Now once I start this, I will pause the video again because this is going to take at least 20 minutes to build on my system, if not a little longer. The script will reinstall the Arch Linux keyring, and that usually solves or can solve or prevent little problems with the keyring issues. And now it's going to download and install all of the packages specified in the packages list file right there. So the entire system is getting downloaded and being installed. You can see my install download speed right now is pretty pokey, so this will take a while. I will pause the video. We'll be back when this is all done because we want to take a look at the resulting ISO and see how successful it is transferring all the desktop settings. So we're back. The build is done. We have our ISO produced in the out directory here. One thing I usually do after each build is remove the EZRailing folder, and I remove the work folder because neither one of those are needed any longer, and the work folder takes up a ton of space. That's where Make Arch ISO did all of its work. You can go into the out folder, and what I usually do is create a MD5 sum of my ISO. That way I have that for reference purposes. And we're done with the build. So let's go and test it and see what we got. We'll open up a VirtualBox here. We'll make a clone of this Ezarcher machine and insert the ISO and boot it on up. Let's navigate over to, it's already there, cool. And let's start the machine. We minimize those. You can see we have our menu selection here, booting in EFI mode. This should take a moment here. Eventually we'll make the resolution bigger, so let's move it on up into the corner there in preparation for that. Should start seeing the boot messages. There we go. I'm curious to see whether our changes, our customizations to the theme and the panel and the background and the icons actually took. Now, one thing I didn't customize is the Light DM greeter. That's something you can think about customizing on your own build if you wish. I didn't change the username or the password, so that's live. And it looks like our theme held. Wow, very nice. Let's change this resolution, bump it up a bit, take a little look around, 16 by 9, there we go. And keep. Wow, we have the same wallpaper. We have the same theme going. All the panels are set correctly. Oh, this looks wonderful. Our icons are papyrus icons. Very nice. Let's take a look and change desktop backgrounds. And we should have not only our Mate backgrounds, but all of the other ones we put in the build. Cool. Everything held so wonderfully. I like it. See? Pretty easy to do. Now, it's on you to go customize your own Ezarcher and make it into what you want it to be. Just have fun with it. And you know what? If you mess up and you don't copy in the right settings, try again. All it takes is a little time and effort and experimentation. But hopefully this video will get you on the path to using Ezarcher to make it your own ISO builder for arch-based spins. Very nice. Let's head on over one last time to look and feel. Not one last time, but you know what I mean. And we have our custom themes in there. Very nice. Work perfectly. Very minimal amount of settings files needed to achieve your desktop settings in Mate. I like it. So there you go, folks. Have fun. Take care. You'll see me in another video. Bye-bye.